Alright guys, I want to start off a series on the programming part of computer science IGCSE paper 2, okay, which is usually the last question going by 2023 all the way up. Okay, so because I figured out that this question most times is the most scary for students. Some are worried about this question because it requires quite some long coding. However, if you have an understanding of the logic, if you have a mental picture of what is required of you, the coding becomes a lot easier. So I'll try in this very series to answer all the questions from the 2023 questions up to this point. So let's begin. So I just picked this question, that's like the last one for May June 2023. Okay, you can see the code right there. Okay, so this is May June last year, paper 2-3. Okay, so let's go straight to it. I will try for this video not to be too long. Okay, so let's try. So here the question says a two-dimensional array contact is used to store names and telephone numbers. All the data is stored as strings. Okay, so now what is very important is for you to have a mental picture of what the question requires. To have a mental picture. Okay, so I'll try to maybe do a drawing. Of course, you should know by now that a 2D array simply looks like a table. Okay, so let's say the name is contact. Okay, and then as a table it should have column and rows, right? Column and row. So here you have the telephone number, the names first of all, and then the telephone numbers. So you have the name here, you have the name, and then you have the telephone number. Okay, so that gives you the mental picture. Then down here you have record 1. Well, depending on the programming language you're using, but I'm using Python, so I believe so this is record 0, record 1, record 2. So that's the way it works for Python. So for each of the records that you're going to enter, they would take this format. So having this mental picture gives you an idea of what you're going to do. Okay, all right, so let's read further. So all data is stored as strings, so they are stored as strings, so you do not need to change anything to cast any string into an integer or so all of them are stored as strings. After all, it's about name and the telephone number. So the array must have the capacity to store 100 contacts in the form of, so maximum you should have is 100 contacts. So take note of these key points. Okay, now the first column, which is this one, contains the name, and the name should be last name and first name in that format, so you enter them together. Okay, so and then the last column is the telephone number. All right, now since you have that fact straight, you need to now look at this one. This one should bear the size, the current size of the array. Okay, so the contact should have the current, the size, the length of the contact is actually the current size. All right, so all these ones are preambles to the question. Now this is where the question is. So what is the question? The question says write a program that meets the following requirements. Number 1, the program should display this, which is 1, display this message. After displaying, then it will validate. So I will walk you through this process once I start the coding. Okay, so let's begin from the top. It says write a program that meets the following requirements. Okay, so you would need, so let me kind of open Microsoft Word to type out all the instruction, or I can as well do it in the programming in the IDE I want to use. So I am going to use Python because for this question you either use Python, Visual Basic, or what's the other one again, or Java. Okay, so you either use Python, Visual Basic, or Java. So I am actually preparing this video for my students, something that they can have even when they go on break, so that they can be practicing along. So so this very exercise will be done in Python. So if you are a programmer in other languages, it is easy for you to just modify. You know, the logic will largely be the same. All you need to do is to change the syntax to suit the programming language that you want to write it to. Okay, so let's begin. Now, from the question, they say display this. Okay, display that. So now, since we are writing this program officially and we're going to run it to see if it runs, it is important for us to begin with the declaration of our variables. Okay, and there are basically two variables that they mentioned there. We will discuss that as we proceed, which is the contacts and the current size. Every other thing can be done in between, but these ones are the global variables that must be declared for you to run the program. However, in the exam properly, you don't need to declare. In fact, you're going to see it clearly written there that you do not need to declare arrays and variables or constants. Okay, so you do not really need to declare that, but for the sake of the practicability of our exercise, it is important for us to declare that so that we can run and actually test our code. All right, so let me start from there. Declare global variables. Okay, so after that, let's go back. So the next part says write a program that meets the following requirement. So display a menu of choices. So what do you need to do here? You need to display the menu. You need to have a way. Okay, so let's go back there. Display the menu. Display menu. Of course, when you display menu, you need to have a way to take users input, right? So take users input. After taking the user's input, what next should we do? This part says validate. So I just want us to have the logic of the program set out, and then we can put our codes in between them. Okay, all right, so validate the menu. So you need to validate the menu. So you display the menu. I mean, you need to validate the users of the option that the user is going to take. Okay, what menu option that the user will take. So you declare the variables, you display the menu, you take users input, and then you validate users inputs. Okay, users choice. So let's call it choice. Validate users choice. So when you do that, you have actually gotten the first step right. So that makes life a lot easier for you. Okay, now after doing that, the next part says allow up to a maximum of 5 new contacts. So if the user chooses to enter a new contact, you need to validate, ask the user how many entries are you making. You need to find a way to make sure that the user does not enter more than 5 entries at a time. Okay, so let's move on. So if user picks one, you now go further to validate. Okay, so you now ask the user, ask for maximum number of entries. Ask for maximum number of entries. Okay, so when you ask for maximum number of entries, you must let the user know, find a way to get the user to understand that the entry must be between 1 and 5, going by the question that they have here. Make sure that you allow maximum of 5 entries. Okay, all right, at any one time. Okay, so after checking that, the next thing now you need to check is to equally validate. Let's go back to the question. It says do not allow more than 100 contacts in total. The next thing is for you to validate that entry. Make sure that the user makes the right choice, the number of entries the user needs to make. Okay, ask for maximum number of entries. So validate max number of entries. number of entries, sorry, number of entries. Okay, so after doing that part, the next thing we need to do is to check the number of entries the user has chosen, add it up to the current size to make sure that it is not more than 100. You see here, do not allow more than 100 contacts in total. So the maximum size is 100. So check if number of entries plus the current size, make sure that it is not more than 100. So that's the thing you need to check. If it is more than 100, you need to make the user continue to enter until the person chooses the right option between 1 and 5, and then making sure again that it's not more than 100. Okay, so when the user passes this test, that's when you can go ahead to add the new contacts. Okay, so after the user passes this test, you can insert new contacts. You can insert new contacts to the contact array. Okay, insert new contact to contact. So that is for option number 1. Okay, now let's move further. The question says, after new contact has been added, sort the array by contact name. So you sort by contact name as long as there are at least 2 contacts in the array. So how do you ensure that there are up to 2 contacts in the array? You check. Okay, so if current size is more than 1, sort array. Okay, sort array. All right, so after that part, let's see. So that is that about the insertion part. The other part about option 2 says output the whole of the array. Okay, so now you go back and say, let me take this down a bit. Okay, so if user chooses menu option 2, then display array. Okay, that is for option 2. Let's move further again. Then option 3 says delete the contents of the array. So if user chooses menu option 3, then you need to delete content, delete array content. So in other words, you just initialize it to an empty array. Okay, so that's the first stage. So once you do this, you have the logic of your problem figured out. The logic is figured out, so the rest is to put the code in between. All right, I know that you're not going to be coding this live in the exam hall. Okay, so you can actually do this part by the corner of your question paper. Look for a space somewhere and just do this. So once you do this, it is easier for you to think along and solve the problem. Now doing this is also going to help you with your commenting. Okay, remember that there are marks awarded for making the right comments. Okay, so this is equally going to help you with the comment. So let us declare the variables that we're going to use first. We're declaring contact and current size. Okay, contact and current size. So here we say contact. Please, it is important for you to declare it exactly the way it is spelled. Please, if it is uppercase, use uppercase. Anyone that is lowercase, use lowercase. Very important. So this is how you do that in Python. So you declare it, and then you declare the current size. Okay, remember I told you guys that this part is completely unnecessary in the exam hall. Okay, however, for the sake of running the program to see that it actually works, we need to do this here. Okay, so what do you think the current size of this would be? it will be the length of the array, the length of contact. So that becomes the current size. So we are done with this part. So the next thing now, we need to go to the other part, okay, where we need to display the menu and take users option. So let me take the lazy approach because I don't have time to type again and again and again and again. But I'm sorry, you won't have the leisure to copy like I am doing. So I'm going to copy this and just do that. So I need to display that. Now I can do the three things at the same time. I can display the menu and take users input. It works very well. I can do that and validate at the same time, but let me take the users input first and display the menu at the same time. So I'm going to do that with input, but I'm just going to paste this here. Now after pasting this, it's easy for me to say, so since it's menu, let me say choice. I can use any name, choice or users option or so. So let me say choice is integer. Remember, you pick one for enter new record, 2 for display, and 3 for delete. Okay, so we'll change that to integer, and then we'll do input, take this, and then we will put them in a comment so that they will be declared, they will be displayed this way. Okay, this, and then I can do this 1 for entering of new contact, and then I can do this 2. Let me make it look good. Okay, yes, that way. And then 2 is to do that. Any other thing? 3 is to, that's 3 is for us to now delete. Okay, so meanwhile this one means new line, new line, new line, new line. So it is going to happen in a new line. So let's quickly go to the end. There's an error somewhere. I think there's a bracket we need to close. Okay, we need to close like 2 brackets. Let's see, 1 2 1 2. Okay, we need to close the quotation marks there. All right, so let us display this and see how it works. Remember, I told you guys that we're going to be running this program along. Good. So this is the way it's going to be. So please select an action from the menu. 1 for this, 2 for that, and 3 for the other thing. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next thing now is to validate users input. How are you going to do that? You need to make sure that the user chooses between 1 and 3. You know, and the best approach to do this is to keep the user in a loop until the person accepts, until the person makes the option of choosing between 1 and 3. Okay, so let's say while choice is less than 1 or choice is greater than 3. So while this is the case, keep the user at this point. Keep the user at this point until the user makes the right option. Okay, so keep the user at this point until the user makes the right choice. Okay, so this is where we are validating the choice now. So I'm going to cut this and put it here. That will serve as my comment for validating the user's input. Okay, now because we've not declared this already, we can't really use it. In fact, Python is already telling us that name choice can be undefined. Okay, so what do? We can come up here and say choice equals 0. So that means from the get-go it is wrong. So if the user leaves it at the wrong choice, the user keeps running around this loop until he or she makes the right choice. Now if I run this code again, you're going to see the result. So I will stop this and then I'm going to run it again. So once I run this, now it is giving me the options. So what do I choose? Let me choose 9. It has taken me back again. Let me choose a 0. You see, it keeps me here until I make the right choice. However, I noticed something. If I put the value, it stays here. So I usually don't like that in my program, although this one again is completely unnecessary. So I just need to do an and a return key there so that it moves to the next line. I like my programs to be very well formatted. Okay, so now my input gets to stay below. So if I choose 0, you see that I choose 5, it takes me there, it keeps me there until I make the right choice. So I choose 1 and it moves on. So we have conquered that very part. Okay, so we have solved this problem as it is. We have solved this problem as it is. Now the next problem we need to solve is to check this once and proceed from there. Okay, all right, so the next step is for us to now begin to enter new contacts, display all of that, and delete. So let's move on. So I haven't collected the user's option. We now need to check if user picks 1, do this. If he does that, do that. So I would use match for this. Okay, match choice. So whatever the choice is, the action is going to take place. So the match choice. So case 1, do this. So case 1, I'll just say pass. I will write the code much later. Case 2, pass. I'm going to write the code later. Case 3, pass. Oh, sorry, case 3. Case 3, pass. Okay, so the code will be written in later. However, in your exam hall, you won't have time to do all of this pass because you're writing it in the paper correctly. Okay, so what I think you should do is to, that is, if you think you will be fast enough, is to get a pencil. First of all, get a pencil and do this code in pencil so that if you need to erase something, you can easily do that. When you are done writing with pencil, you just go over what you've written with a pen. Please remember to go over it with a pen. Writing it straight away with a pen is going to make your work look quite rough, because it's like you're thinking, you know, as you're progressing. So your thought at first may not be right. You may need to change a thing or two. So start it off with a pencil and then adjust as you go along. All right, so here, what am I doing? I now need to do what now? So I've done this part. I now need to allow up to a maximum of 5 new contacts to be added to the array at any one time. So maximum number of 5. So the question is here, you need to find a way to limit the user to entering between 1 to 5 entries at a time. Okay, at a time. You can choose to ask the user to enter, like I'm going to do here, to enter the number of entries he wants to make, or you can choose to just put the user in a loop and ask the user, do you still want to enter more? Do you still have more entries? Up to the maximum number of times the person is supposed to enter. So here I'm going to, so remember we said if the user chooses 1. So here is for the user picking 1, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, so if the user chooses 1, we need to ask for a maximum number of entries. So I will pick this and then I will drop these here. Okay, so I'm going to put the code down there. So I now need to ask the user what is the entry that he wants to make. Okay, so I'll say number of entries. So let me say I start off initially at making it at 0. Okay, then I can put the user in a loop. Okay, sorry, this is supposed to be indented that way. So I can put the user in a loop and forces the user to make sure he picks between 1 and 5, just like I did for this very point here, just like I did here. Okay, just like I did here, I can do the same thing here. So I can say while number of entries it's is less than 0, okay, less than 1, or the number of entries is greater than 5. So this forces the user to pick between 1 and 5. So if that is the case, what should the user do? We need to put the user in a loop. The user needs to keep repeating the action until he or she gets it right. Okay, so you now do number of entries equals integer. Of course it has to be an integer. Okay, integer input. You take your input, and then you can drop a message for the user that you can only make a maximum of 5 entries, blah 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 blah. So we can say you can only make a maximum of 5 entries. Why does my entry always end up being spelled wrongly? At any one time. Okay, so once you do that, you can do your to begin a new line. Okay, and then you can ask the user again how many entries do you want to make? And maybe on a new line again. Okay, so once the user does this, if the user passes this test, then the program is going to proceed from there. So when the user chooses the right option, now let's move on to the next thing we need to do. We now need to validate the maximum number of entries. Remember that the question says that the maximum number of entries is the maximum number of contacts that should be in your array is 100. So what do you need to do now? What you need to do now is to check first of all, get your current size again. Get the current size again, just in case the current size has changed before now. Okay, the current size is the length. Okay, the length of contacts. Okay, length of contact is the current size. All right, now having done that, the next thing you need to do now is to check. Okay, so you can comment this out. Please let me include this. Comment and prompts are crucial. Okay, let me do this capital later. Comments and prompts are crucial to this whole thing. If you don't have good comments, you don't have good prompts. This one's telling the user what he should do. It must be user friendly. You're going to lose marks. And then the comments are this ones. They are non-executable. Okay, let's move further. So this is checking recent contact size. So we're checking the recent contact size. Okay, so after that, you can even make this further interactive, but you are not mandated to do this part. It is not actually compulsory. Okay, it is not actually compulsory. You can tell the user, you can give the user an idea of how many contacts that the user already has. Okay, you have whatever records in your contacts already. Okay, so you can just come in between here. And do that becomes current size this, and then you put the F there. Yes, so you see what happened just now. The IDE I used completed the code for me. Okay, so this is the idea. So we've not even run this code to see how it's working since. Should we run or should we just continue writing? Okay, let me just run. But if you are in the exam hall, you won't have the privilege of running since you're writing it into the question paper. So let me quickly do that and see what happens. So if I run this, it tells me to do that. So if I choose number 1, it tells me you can only make a maximum of 5 entries at any one time. How many entries do you want to make? So let's say I choose 9. It's going to tell me no, I can't do that. I have to make only 5 entries. So let's say I choose 2. So once I choose 2, it is going to proceed and tell me the number of contacts I already have. See how many contacts you have. Record, you have records 0. It should be 0 records. Sorry, you have 0 records. Okay, let me put this here. You have 0 records. Okay, so that will make it to read you have 0 records in your contacts already. Okay, so although this part is not necessary and I don't think it's going to attract any extra marks, okay, but that is just my way of making the program look more interactive. Okay, so let's proceed from there. So after displaying that, you now go ahead to validate to make sure that the user, if you add up validate number of entries, so you now actually need to validate the entry to make sure that whatever the user has chosen plus the current size will not exceed 100. Very important. Okay, so we can equally put the person in a loop again. We can put the user in a loop again. Say while number of entries plus the current size, very important, is greater than 100. Is greater than 100. Why this is the case, what should the user do? You put the user in a loop and ask the user to always to do this. So you can say let me copy this. There's no need. Okay, so I'll just come here and say number of entries. I need to take the number of entries again in case the user chooses between 1 and 5 and the number exceeds the 100 record mark that was given to us. So contacts, let me put this in a comment. Okay, contact list is almost full. So you say contact list is almost full. It's almost full. Contact list is almost full. So you can go further to say you have to enter not more than whatever records. So with this, you now need to do 100 minus the current size. 100 minus the current size. Okay, 100 minus the current size. When you close that, what did I do the last time for this guy to help me and complete the code? That's what I'm thinking about. What is not coming up. So actually you need to do your F here. So when you do that, it will tell you the maximum that you have, okay, what you should pick. So I think with that we would have solved the problem of checking these two requirements. These where's the, okay, here maximum of 100 and maximum of 5 here. Okay, so we have solved that problem. Now the next problem is for us to actually add, that is to append the contact, append the contact into the array. Okay, so let's move on to that aspect down. Okay, so I like to use some spacing. It is very important for your program, although it's not an issue in this question, but if you can, please do it. It's going to make your program very readable and easy for the examiner to actually mark. Okay, so now we have done all the validation. Now we need to make the entries. Okay, we need to make the entries. So let's come here, check if entries. Okay, so that is the checking that we did. So let me come here and paste it. Where is that checking? More than 100, more than 100. That is here. So I can put this there, check if number of entries plus that is more than 100. Okay, so after that part, the next part is insert. Okay, so let me copy this too at once so that I don't have to come back here to copy this. Okay, so now we have to insert. Okay, now there are a couple of ways that we can actually insert into our inserting to our 2D array. But one thing I want us to realize there that Python by default doesn't have the array data structure unless you want to import NumPy. But there's absolutely no need to do that here because we are going to use the list, and that is what we've been using, the array list. Now Python sees a 2D array as a list inside of a list. A list inside of a list. Let's take note of that. I mean, for instance, this is a list and then you have another list inside. So this becomes record 1 or record 0 as the case may be, and then another list inside that becomes record 2, another list that becomes record 3, another list that becomes record 4. So that is the way it works. Okay, so it's a list inside of a list. Now, having explained that part, let us proceed. So the next thing you need to do now is to now loop. Since you know the number of times, the number of entries the user wants to make, the next thing you need to do is to loop it. You say for each of the rows which stands for the records that the user wants to make, in range of what? Number of records, number of entries, sorry. Okay, so we now do for row in range number of entries. Okay, so now we need to loop this, the number of entries that the user wants to make. So now we need to do contacts. We need to first of all append the new row. Now remember I said that there are a couple of ways that we can do this. Okay, there are a couple of ways that we can do this. So we need to append a new row, all right, and then we will now append into the new row. Okay, so we now need to do current size. Okay, so after after appending, we now need to take the name of the user. Remember the question says name and telephone number, first name and last name. Last name and the first name. Okay, I believe so. Where's that thing again? Here, last name and first name. So we need to take the name, and the name equals, you do your input. Remember they say it's a string. Okay, equals enter first name, enter last surname, sorry, is it last name or surname, enter last name and first name right? Enter last name and first name, okay, of student of so after entering that, I want it to be like a statement format. Enter first name and last name of enter first name and last name of student or record something. Okay, the same style that we did before, of record row. Okay, so we're doing the first one of record row. Okay, so the idea is that you just put your F there, of record row. So by doing this, the program is going to pick enter last name and first name of record, or in record 1 or of student. Let me check, is this for a student? Is it for student or contact? Okay, not student, contact. So let's see contact, first and last name of contact something. So of contact 1, contact 2, as many as you asked for, and then the next part is to enter for the telephone number as well. Okay, the telephone number. So let's proceed. Telephone number, you can say telephone equals input. Remember they are all strings. Input, sorry, I don't think we need this double bracket here. Yeah, so that's out. So here you say enter. No, I don't like to start with this. I don't know how this entered here. So you now say enter the telephone number, telephone. telephone number of contact, and then this, and then this, and then row of contact row. You put your F there, so enter that of contact that. Okay, so that is going to, let me space this up here, so that is equally going to ask for the contact as well. Okay, I don't know if at this point I should run this program or just continue ranting. Okay, let me think about it. Okay, let me run this program. Okay, so let's run and see what's happening here really. Okay, so let's enter the first one, and then we have actually tested this before, so there's no point testing it again. And then you have 0 records in your contact already. Enter the number of records. Okay, enter last name and first name of record 0. Okay, so I wanted to enter 3 records. Okay, why did I choose 3? It's too long. Oh my god. Okay, let's try. Let's call it Uche Namdi, and then the telephone number, any number, and then again you see it has moved to the second one, so let's just keep entering my name there. I don't want to use any person's name. There are a couple of names in my head, so any number. And then for the third time, let me use any arbitrary name, Peter John, and then the contact again, the contact, any telephone number, sorry. Okay, so that's that. You see, so it worked up to this point, so our program is working now. But if you, however, you don't like the 0 thing, you want it to show 1, 2, and 3, okay, all you need to do is to add 1 here and add 1 there. Okay, that would still do the trick for us. Okay, so we have collected these 2 contacts. Now we need to append them to these to our row. Okay, we need to append them to our row. On a second thought, what if I do this? New row equals, new row should be a 1D array. Good. And then I do new row dot append. I can now append the name. Can I append the 2 at the same time? Telephone number. Can it work? Let's unresolved argument. No, it won't work. I'm just playing around. Forgive me. Okay. So the next thing, you also need to do the same thing with a new row. I think this is the reason my cursor keeps coming down. Okay. New row dot append telephone number. Okay, so this resolves the whole thing. So I have appended it. Now the next thing I need to do is to go further to now say contact dot append. What do I need to append? The new row. So that solves the problem for me. So I did this one after the other since there are 2 of them. However, if you have a large size of columns, there are simpler approaches to solve this problem. But if your column is not more than 5, I don't think you need to actually bother yourself with that approach. Okay, so let's move on. Now, since we have done this, case closed, now it is important for you to give the user a feedback. You could put a print statement to tell the user entry was successful. Yeah, entry successful. Okay, so after that part, let's proceed to see what we're supposed to do here. Now remember, we need to sort. Very important, we need to sort. So after doing that part, the next thing is for us to sort. So how do we sort? It's for us to sort. let me push this here. I believe I'm still online. Yeah, I'm still okay. So how do we need to sort? We need to check. You see, it says if this current size is this. So if current size is greater than, now you need to change the current size. Aha, that's true. You need to do current size equals the length of your contact. Very important. Contact. I don't need this. I don't need this. Okay, so if that is greater than 1, then we need to sort. Now this is where I actually advise people to use what do they call it, use a programming language. Don't use pseudocode. Pseudocode can make life quite tasking for you. Pseudocode can make life quite tasking for you because you won't leverage on the power of the programming language that is available unto you. So if you are doing pseudocode, you need to write your sort algorithm. Okay, but if you're using Python or other languages, you just need to sort that guy. Okay, so you say contact dot sort. You see, that makes life a lot easier for you, and this is acceptable. Okay, in the mark scheme I've seen it, they said students can actually use the functions or the libraries in the programming language that they are using. It is acceptable. So now for you to, if you do this, it will just sort for you, but following the instruction of the question that says sort it. Where is that thing again? Okay, down here. Where is it? I know a lot of persons will be laughing at me now. That yeah, he can't see that thing in front of him. Honestly, I can't see it. Oh, it was looking at me right there. Sort the array by contact name. So they didn't just say sort, they say sort by contact name. So there is a function in Python called the lambda. So let's use lambda to do this trick and make life easy for us. Now this can be anything, any variable here would be good. And then you say row, and then you indicate that it is the first column, the first one, the first record there that you're going to see. So lambda will do this job for you, and your life will be sweet, trust me. So this is how to easily sort it. If you look at the mark scheme, you would see that the pseudocode that was used, this took quite a number of lines of code. Okay, so after doing this part, I think your job as per adding to this record is complete. So the next part you need to do is to proceed to display, but I would want to display the content of this array. After doing this, I would want to display. I can just say print contact. Okay, print contact, so that I can see exactly what is happening in there. Okay, so let's just try this program again to see how it works. So let's choose the option 1, and then how many entries do you want to make? This I just want to make 2 so that we can see if the sorting actually works. Okay, so zero entries already. I want to use my name, Chinamdi, my telephone number, that's not a real number. Okay. Okay, second name, let me use John Mark, and then the contact telephone number is that, and then successful. You can see it's been sorted. It's been sorted by surname. It's been sorted by this entry, by the name already, by the name entry. All right, so actually we don't need this part here, so I will extract this out. So the next thing we need to do now is to, so we're done with case 1. Now let's proceed to case 2. Done with case 1. Let's proceed to case 2. So case 2 is where we get to display. You can actually just do like the thing I did here to do print contacts. It's possible that can work, but I wouldn't want to take that approach. So what I'm going to do is to use while loop to do the display. Okay, to use a loop. Sorry, it can be a while loop, it can be a for loop. To use loop to do the display. So I'm supposed to do for row in range. For row in range, the length of the contact, which is the current size, so I can do current size or do length of the contact. Okay, so why not I come back here and do current size again, just to get the most recent size of the array. Okay, and then I'll do contact. Okay, good. So current size. So from that to current size, now begin to display all of them. So I'm going to do print contact whatever row you have chosen, and then first column, and then I can do comma, whatever row you have chosen, and then 1. So that is going to display the list for me. I can't really see the result of case 2 because I need to like place this whole thing inside of a loop so that it just keeps running, you know, on and on for the user to keep choosing options regularly. Okay, I will test this later. Okay, so the last part is where you now need to delete. I believe so. Yeah, the last part is where you need to delete. So where are we? Okay, so this is where the user chooses menu 2. So let's come here and put a comment here. Please, commenting is very important. If user chooses menu 2, display array, so you can just say display array or leave this or that. Okay, but just put a description of what happens, you know, of what the code underneath is doing. So this one becomes the last part where we get to delete the entire content of the whole thing. So I think this part is like the most straightforward of them all. We can just do contact can be equal to an empty list. So this solves the problem. Okay, this solves the entire problem. And then underneath you can say print all records successfully deleted. Okay, and then remember I said we need to put this into a loop so that it just keeps running on and on so that we can test all of them to see how they actually work. Okay, so to do that, all of these guys here need to be in a loop, in an endless loop. Okay, so I'll just indent this one step, and then I'll go to the top, and then I'll do my enter. I'll come here, enter, and then I'll do while true, keep doing that thing. So it's going to be running endlessly. I don't think the question says we should end somewhere, right? So this gives us the option of gives us the opportunity to actually know to test each of the user choices to make sure that they're actually working. All right, so here we are. So let's run this and see what happens. So let me choose option 1, and then I want to make 2 entries for contact 1. I am usually the guinea pig in this case. So the numbers, Jendo, I don't know what Jendo Jendo, and then the number of Jendo, and then so that's the 2, right? I said 2. So let me display the records to see what records we have there. So these are the records. You see, it's been sorted. All right, let me do 3 to see what we have there. Record successfully deleted. Now let us see if there's anything in there. Go. It is empty. There is nothing in there. It is empty. There is nothing in there. Okay, it is empty. For this, for that. So it's empty. Okay, there is nothing in there. So that print is this. There is nothing in there. So I think possibly just to end this all, I can just add, but if you end it at this, I think you're very okay. But let me add something. Let me check if this guy is empty. Okay, so if current size is greater than 1, that is when you should run this loop. Okay, else you should okay, if this, so let me indent this. So else it should display, or greater than 0, sorry, not greater than 1, greater than 0, you should do this. Else you should print no records in contact. You have no records to display. You have no records to display. Okay, so you don't need this anymore. Gone. So that's basically it. There's the long and short of the whole thing. Okay, so if that's the case, no records to display. If not, it just keeps running that. Okay, so I believe this answers the question. I will I don't know, I'm going to drop this code in a file somewhere, and possibly drop the link to the file in the comments section. Okay, I will do that. Thank you all for your time. I hope the video didn't take too long. I will now move on to the next question. Possibly by next week or so, you're going to see another video. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.